Hi, welcome back to yet another video. Cage the Elephant has finally released Neon Pill, and I wanted to go through the album song by song, highlight a few things, and at the end give a review of the project as a whole. The way that I did this, I listened to the album 3 times. Once I listened to it while reading the lyrics, the second time with my eyes closed, and the third time I listened to it with some friends so that I had a different context. And I feel like I got a good sense of what's going on in this album. So buckle up, we're about to get started. Off the bat, I enjoy the way that the vocals are mixed oh so much. It is very similar to what we have heard from Cage the Elephant, but I found comfort in the familiarity. Once those vocals came in, I knew this is the band that I've grown to love, that I've listened to for years, and this is just another outing with them, and they're gonna bring me into a whole new world, and it got me so excited. I don't know how I allowed myself to forget, but I did. But Cage the Elephant, they are pre-chorus kings. Their pre-chorus really brings us out of the verses, warms us up, and then boom, that chorus is able to drive home. There are so many pre-choruses in this album, and this one on Hi-Fi just brings me back into that understanding. And I was like, okay, I'm in for a good one. I'm buckled up and I'm ready. While I was listening to this song, I noticed that in the verses, at the end of each line, there was a guitar riff that accompanied the ending of the line. And I thought that was really cool. I feel like it punctuated what was being said, and that was a really cool highlight for me. Now, when it comes to this album, beyond just the music, there are things being said, there are themes that are reoccurring, and this feels like an actual album. It doesn't feel just like a collection of songs put together and we're calling it an album. It feels like a concept album. So I'm going to go at it from that angle and kind of highlight what I feel the songs are saying and how the story is progressing as we go. So with this song, it feels like the person who's speaking is at a breaking point. They're tired of the way that things are and they're ready for something to change. They're not quite sure how to go about it. They're not sure if they're willing to pay the price that it takes for true change to happen, but they do recognize that they're fed up with the way things are. It being called Hi-Fi, kind of like highs and lows. I think this song is starting to settle us into what this album is all about and point out some of the key things that we will be addressing later on in the album. I enjoy this hook so much. Very simple, very straightforward, easy to sing along to. It's one of those songs that's just stuck in your head. I know I'm going to be singing it as soon as I'm done recording this. I know I'm going to be singing it all day tomorrow. It's good. It's a good hook. And by the time we get to the final chorus in this song, I was in the album. I was immersed. I was ready for more. In my mind, I was like, okay, if there are any other songs that are this quality, this is going to be so good. I also really enjoyed the flow in the second verse. It felt similar to the first 2 albums, some of the flows that Matt has in those verses. Great time, brings me back, but also I recognize that we're moving forward with a different sound. I think that they did a very good job of bringing old sounds in, but also progressing their sound to a new direction. As far as the deeper thing that's going on, I feel like in this song, there's this sense of euphoria because he's taken the neon pill, whatever that is, if it's a vice, if it's, actually a pill, if it's something else. You can fill in the blank. He's taken whatever the neon pill is, and now he's feeling this sense of just euphoria. He's feeling like, oh, I don't feel like how I felt before. I feel different. I feel better. Things are changing around me, and they're changing so quickly, and it's so easy. Just all I need is this neon pill. And I feel like that's what's really being driven home with the chorus. And it's interesting because in the next song, all of that's about to get flipped on its head. Great hook. This was the leading single on the album, and I think that that was the best choice they could have made. I tried not to play it too much because I didn't want it to be played out when I listened to the album. I didn't want to just skip it. I feel like in the past, when a single comes out, I'll just play it to death, and then once the whole album comes out, I always skip it because I'm like, I've heard that 1,000 times. So I tried to be disciplined, and I was successful. But jumping into the chorus, the euphoria that was felt in Rainbow is flipped on its head. Now it's a hit and run, and he's been double crossed by the neon pill. It's not what he thought. The neon pill has only addressed the symptoms, but not the root of the problem. So it's a temporary fix. But at the same time, too, he likes how it's making him feel because he's feeling something different or feeling something at all. And so he's a little conflicted with like, this feels kind of right, but I know deep down inside this isn't actually doing anything for me. I feel so double-crossed by it. And here is where I feel the narrative begins to really pick up steam and take off. Initially, when I was listening to this song, I was about halfway through and just kind of taking it at face value. And I was like, okay, solid, kind of progresses the narrative. That's awesome. But then one of the best things that happens in the entire album happens in this song. The outro had my jaw drop to the floor. It was just so unexpected and so freaking good and so well timed. You absolutely have to listen to this for yourself. In it, everything changes and everything begins to be warped. And I think that sonically is speaking to the narrative. So not only do we have lyrics driving the narrative, but also sonically we're beginning to see these themes that are pushing what's going on. And things are beginning to feel warped. He talks about how he just feels like he's floating and he's just trying to float above everything and he's just trying to get away. And it feels like he can't escape the clouds. He can't escape the hounds. He can't escape what it really is that is the problem. And in this song, he mentions something about chains, and chains are going to be brought up several times in this. So just keep an eye out. As I listened to this album more and more, I felt like I began to recognize some of the different similarities in songs, to where this song would be talking about chains, then that song's talking about chains, and then also this song's talking about chains, but in each one, the context was slightly different and it was pushing the story just a little bit more. And I think that is so fantastic. So when you listen, pay attention. This isn't one you sleep on. Also with this song, the verse and the chorus has a really similar cadence. And the best word I could use to describe how it made me feel was it was almost mesmerizing, almost lulling. It felt like a clock ticking or a pendulum swinging back and forth. And it feels like he's trapped in his own mind, or he's trapped in this state of being, and he's just trying to float past the clouds, get above it, get a different perspective, because what's happening is not working. When the change up happens in the outro, this was my first cry on the album. It brought me to tears. I don't fully know why that was the emotion that it elicited from me, but it did. And I was like, okay, I'm in for a good one because I'm feeling something here. Now, when Metaverse was dropped, I did not like the title of it. I was like, man, maybe in the context of the album, it'll make sense. And that's true. This has really good energy. The chorus has grown on me substantially. It's another one of those catchy songs. I think it's a very good time. I think that you can enjoy this song in the context of the album and outside of the context of the album. It's a good song in general. But in this, you begin to see that the speaker is recognizing the effects of his mental state on the people around him. He's not as close to his family as he'd like to be. He's not as close to his friends. He's distant. He's in a different place because all he's trying to do is escape the reality that he's been living for all this time. But in doing so, he's pushing the people that he wants close to him away, which is alienating him even more, and it's becoming this vicious cycle for him. And at the end of the chorus, the last couple lines, he's like, oh well, I'm just running and running. I'm just doing what I need to do to survive, just doing what I need to do to get by. And that is so tragic, and it drives him to yet another true breaking point. This is another one of the singles that we got before the whole album came out. I love the piano ballad and the vocals. It feels like a very well-needed rest from the high energy that we've had to this point. We're 6 songs in, and the album feels like it's been slowly, like coming down from this high. And I think that that's very interesting because the back half of the album is the exact same way. And I think that that is very well done if that was done with intention, where there's this feeling of up and down, because that's how we can feel when we're going through stuff like this. And that's so good. This song is a perfect breather. It gives the listener a moment to reflect on everything that's been said to the first half of the album. In this song, it feels like there's a true recognition that we're not going to just attack the symptoms. We're going to start to go after the source of what's making him feel this way. He's going to say what he's been needing to say out loud, what he's been afraid to say out loud, what he's been afraid to face. To this point, he's said several times that he doesn't want to face what's in the mirror. He doesn't want to face himself. And now it's like, okay, I think I'm ready to start vocalizing what's going on inside and say it out loud. Something I find interesting is that when we go back to Float in the Sky, he feels like he's floating. He feels like he's not in control. Because when you're floating, you're not really dictating the direction that you're going. You're just you're going with the air, or if we're in the ocean, you're floating in the water. Wherever the water's taking you is where you're going. And in this, he says, with angry wings, I flew out of that town. There's this sense of, hey, I am going to begin to take control back. I'm going to begin to take steps towards what I want to see happen for myself. In the pre-chorus, he talks about chasing down a dream that's thousands of miles away, but it was always right in front of him. The answer was always right in front of him. He knew what needed to be done, but didn't want to go through the pain and the hurt that were really chaining him down. And it feels like he is coming to terms with the effect that it's having not only on himself, but the people around him, and how he feels like he's really messed up. Not only is he recognizing that, but he's looking to come to a solution. And this brought the energy all the way back up to 10. The bridge is a vocalization that has big Portugal the Man energy, which, if you didn't know, I'm a fan. So the pairing of those sounds, magical for me. With the way that the drums are laid out, it feels a little bit uneasy. And I think that that's the music informing the narrative again, where there's this uneasiness happening, where he's coming to this place where he keeps saying, cut the ball and chain. It's like, okay, this thing, the chains that are holding me back, the things that are holding me down, it's time to cut ties. It's time to let them go so that I can actually fly out of this place. So I can not just float, but actually have control of rising above what's been holding me down. I really enjoyed the breakdown in this one. I enjoyed how it faded back into the final chorus. My only thing, and it's just probably a me thing, is I wish that it was just slightly longer. I just wanted a little bit more, but I know that's extremely subjective and maybe it was the perfect length for you. But for me, I just wanted a little bit longer, a little bit more, maybe a couple more sounds in there, and then come back with a big chorus. But other than that, not mad at it. In this chorus, he also points out that only one person holds the key to the chains, and clearly that's pointing to him. So it feels like we're beginning to have action behind recognizing the issues at hand. I like this song a lot. It's a driving song. It's a fun chorus. It is a very easy listen at the end of the verses, going into the chorus where Matt says, get lit. I just think it's fun. It's a good time. In one of the verses, he talks about how he has given all he has. He has nothing left to give, essentially. He's given everything to this, and he's done. It's really interesting how the chorus is extremely repetitive, and I think that that was done with intention, because every time they repeat, having a good time, we're having a good time, I'm having a good time, it feels like they're trying to convince themselves. And I think that that is interesting, and I think that that is a really cool way of putting this, because so many times we're like, okay, I know it's wrong, I know how to fix it, but I'm still just not really going to solve the problem because I'm just looking to have a good time. And I am having a good time. I promise I'm having a good time. Maybe I'm the only one who's had that thought or conversation in my own head of like trying to convince myself that what I'm doing is I'm having a good time. In here, I feel like he really brings that out with repeating the chorus over and over, almost like convincing himself. But at the end of the day, the sun comes up again and nothing has actually changed. I think that Netflix is probably going to hear this song and be like, yo, that is a sick party song, and put it in a really bad romantic comedy in a scene where there's a party, and just not recognize the tragedy that's actually happening in this and just have it at a surface level. Shots fired at Netflix, yes. Do I regret it? No. Now, in this one, in the lyrics, the chains are now broken. He has finally put action to what we've been building up to for so long. I think it's very interesting this song is called Shy Eyes, because in other songs several times he's mentioned being shy or hiding behind being shy, and that almost being the facade. And as we get into the final chorus, he says, I don't believe in those shy eyes. So he doesn't believe in the lies or the warped sense of reality that he's been living and that he's been perpetuating to other people. No more excuses, no more hiding. Let's get after this thing and let's take back our life. In this, it feels like the verses have a lot of space to breathe, and then the chorus feels really suffocating, and then the bridge feels even more suffocating. And then we get into the final chorus and it has a lot of space and it feels like it can breathe. And I feel like that's driving home what he's feeling to this point. He's feeling like he's just so close to that breakthrough, and then he finally gets it. I really like the inflection of the vocal performance on the beginning words of each verse, and then how it kind of fades into what we're accustomed to hearing. I really think that Matt did a great job with his vocal performance across this album. It feels really diverse, it feels really fresh, but at the same time too, it feels like it pays homage to what we have become accustomed to. Like I have said many times before, I feel like it's a really well-rounded, it feels like a really well-rounded performance and also shows growth at the same time. I love when he will do the first letter of the next word and then finish the word. He's done that in other songs, and it was just good. It was just a little sugar on top. The instrumental bridge, a great time. In this, he says that he can hardly breathe, that he's going to rest in peace, that you can just bury him, and it feels like a death of ego. It feels like a death of what has been happening, a death of that version of himself. And I think that it's a really powerful and pivotal moment in the album. This run of songs in the back half is fantastic, and just one after the other just complements the previous. Same is so good, especially in the context of the album. As far as the song goes, I love the ad-libs, I love the little vocalizations, I love the texture. It feels intricate, but it doesn't feel like there's too much going on. It feels very well placed, and I enjoy it oh so much. I would say this song feels as if he's having a conversation with himself, or he's having a conversation in his own mind where he's just kind of saying, hey, I'm done playing the games. I don't want to play the games anymore. But will we ever be the same? Will I still feel the good things that I felt before I felt this way? Will it ever be like that again? If I go down this journey and face all of this hurt and this pain and these different things that I've been avoiding this whole time, will I ever feel how I used to feel? And I feel like posing that question is just so good. To this point, he has addressed their something, dealt with surface level stuff, sort of gotten to the root, made some progress, and now he's in the middle of the progress and he's like, is this going to be worth it in the end? And I think that that's such a good question. And he even says, do you ever stop to think about it? The reflectiveness in this song is just like, hey, these last 10 songs, let's think about what's happened to this point. Is this worth it? This is the absolute tipping point, jumping into the finale, the final track. I love the kick on this. I love the guitar on this. It is mellow. We've been brought back down to where the lyrics are really what is being highlighted in this song. I would say, after listening to this album only a few times, this is probably my favorite song on the album. It is so good. This ties everything together. He essentially says, hey, I'm going to move forward, but I'm not moving on. I'm not going to look back, but it's okay to ask questions of how I got to that place. When it feels like it's getting colder, or essentially when it feels like it used to, just remember that seasons change. And I think that that's really powerful. This song clearly offers what the other songs have not to this point, and that's hope. It doesn't offer a black and white solution, an answer to the problem, that there is hope that things will change. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's really well done. I think it would be so cheesy if there was just a black and white solution, because we're all complex people. When it comes to the human condition, there's not one formula that's going to fix everything for everyone. We're not just going to wake up one day and everything's perfect in our lives. It takes work, and it takes a willingness to do that work. It takes a willingness to face the things that we need to face, rather than going out and getting that neon pill, going out and just filling the voids that we've had for so long, and trying to convince ourselves that it's okay and we're having a good time, we're just living our best life, when we're dying inside, essentially, for a lack of an eloquent way to put it. I think that this is such a great closing track, and like I said before, it ties the album together very well. I think it goes without saying, I really like this album. I think it is fantastic. And I'm not just being nice because I like the band. I think it is really good. Every time I've listened to it, I've been able to peel back another layer or recognize something different. And I think that that is what art is. Maybe I was thinking too deep in my interpretation of the songs, but that's the way that it spoke to me. And maybe it spoke to you in a completely different way. And I would love to hear any other interpretations respectfully, like how did it speak to you? And I think that that's what's so great about music, is that it speaks to all of us in different ways, regardless of our background or our upbringing. It can speak to us. And I think that's such a powerful thing. And I think this album has something to say. A lot of albums are just a collection of songs and it should just be called a playlist, but this feels like it has something to say, and it's said well, it's done with care. It's apparent that a lot of thought and time and effort went into the creation of this album. So thank you to Cage the Elephant for putting this out and allowing us to have it. Now, when it comes to rating, if I have to rate it, which no one's asking me to do this, I'm forcing myself to rate it and I'm forcing my opinion upon you. But if I have to rate it, as of right now, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I think that there are very few albums that are perfect. I can't think of one right now, but I think a 9 I feel comfortable with. It is so good as an album. When I put it up in my mind against previous albums by Cage the Elephant, I think it holds up. And I think it shows growth and maturity. And I think it is a really good outing. I would encourage you, if you can find the time, just to sit down and listen to this one time from top to bottom. It is so good. It is worth every second of your time. Also, if you do enjoy it, make sure you support the band in any way you can. If it's streaming the songs, getting the album, getting the vinyl, going to a show, which they're touring, and I'm going to my very first Cage the Elephant show, and this album kind of gets me really excited about it. But support the band in any way. They definitely have a lot of love, but I think everyone could use a little bit more love, so send some more love their way. And if you did make it to the end of the video, thank you. Genuinely, I appreciate your time. There's a lot of other things you could be doing. Thanks for your time. Shout out to you 100%. Thanks for going on this roller coaster ride with me, listening to my ramblings, my potentially completely off base theories. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. So until next time.